There's nothing about the First Descendant that I completely hate, but there's nothing that I really love. The game just feels like it's a checklist game for an online multiplayer looter shooter. It takes something from all of the big ones within its genre. These are my opinions and my thoughts on the First Descendant. The easiest way to describe First Descendant is that it's Korean Warframe with a sprinkling of the Division and or Destiny on top. The thing that I think First Descendant does the worst, and this is a big one for me, is its characters and story. Every character feels like a generic character that's there to point you towards your next quest. None of them stand out to me. Sure, the Descendant models are all different and interesting, but all the other supporting characters are they're just plain boring. I don't care about like any one of them. None of them live in my head for more than a few seconds of when I'm talking to them. And that's kind of the same for the story. The story is just like cookie cutter checklist fodder. You find the MacGuffin. Bad guy shows up and takes your MacGuffin. Now you must get the other MacGuffins before bad guy does, or humanity is doomed. It feels like the story is supposed to be like the main focus of the game because there is no PvP, but it's just so bland and kind of uninteresting that I kind of find myself going through it on autopilot. And most of this is because of the characters being so uninteresting. Like their personalities and everything are just uninteresting and unmemorable. And honestly, this is the same thing that happened to me when I played Warframe. I kind of just I just got into the groove of the game and I just ignored the story and went kind of wherever. And the First Descendant feels like a budget Warframe because the First Descendant's monetization strategy and core gameplay mechanics are the same as Warframe's, minus the really fast and fun movement system. Their monetization is basically the same as Warframe from what I remember when I played Warframe, and it's using the convenience strategy, or more along the level of how much patience do you have for this game and for this grind? Because that's what it is. The grind for the items, at least from the bit of time I put into the game, is all about the level of patience you have. You could grind for these materials to make the different parts of the Descendants, or you could just pay to unlock it right now, or another option is buying an item that increases drop rates and drop amounts. Like their strategy is they want you to pay for the convenience of quickly unlocking things. Not a great strategy, personally, that I like. I don't see it as a bad way of doing things because it's a free-to-play game, and it's basically the same thing Warframe does with their free-to-play model, at least from what I remember. But I don't really care for that because I'm not going to pay for anything because that's just going to skip content. If you're not trying to grind the game and play the game, why even play it? Why even touch the game then? Why are you playing the game and just, spending money on it to get all of the stuff when it's that is what you're playing the game for. That is one of the main focuses of the game, other than the story. The grind to me doesn't feel impossible, but I may also not be far enough into the game to actually give a good opinion on the grind for materials. I'm only maybe 10 hours in. If you're farther in than me, please let me know in a comment what you think of the grind. How bad does the grind get later on? Having unlocked 2 Descendants really early, with Bunny and, the grenade guy, and already having stuff for unlocking Freya, I just need to get into the next area. It doesn't feel bad to me, but maybe it does get worse. And the other thing that First Descendant has kind of similar to that of Warframe is its core gameplay mechanics, except for the fact that it's a lot slower than Warframe, especially on the movement side of things. For movement in First Descendant, you've only got a basic sprint, double jump, dodge roll, and grappling hook. No sliding or the quick kind of movements that you can do in Warframe. No floating like you can do in Destiny. It's all just really basic for a sci-fi game. And their one big thing, which I think is the grappling hook, it doesn't feel all that great to use because it just breaks so easily when you're trying to get around with it. And just running around the world, I don't think it feels that good. It kind of feels okay with Bunny when you're getting that sense of speed of her running, but that is so short that it doesn't really feel that good or like that big of a sense of speed. Then there are other similarities to Warframe and I'd say Destiny's combat, and that's the abilities. You have 4 abilities per Descendant that do different things for each character. One is your main attack skill, then a utility skill, then a crowd control skill, and then your ultimate that does a lot of damage. Like it feels very similar to those other games, but not as good, I think. And there's the third-person shooting, which I don't think feels bad, but it's nothing to write home about. It's just your normal third-person shooter mechanics without a cover or mantling system. You just keep fighting and moving around to pick up health, mana, and ammo drops. It's very similar to how Warframe does their combat, but like I said, not as fun, in my opinion. Like I said a little bit ago, the game is very much structured as a slower version of Warframe when it comes to base combat. There's also the module system that is very much the same as Warframe. Like you can use them to improve your gun stats and your character stats and stuff. Since it is mostly stat boost and status effects, it's not a bad system, but it's very similar to Warframe. Yes, there's a lot of comparison between First Descendant and Warframe because they feel so damn similar. Then there's the comparisons that you can make to other games. One of the major ones from the First Descendant is the Division with the loot system. First Descendant's guns and loot system is very derivative of the Division. 4 ammo types, 3 different slots for guns that you can switch between, and very similar weapons that are just like changes of stats, and that's it. I know that's a staple of the looter shooter genre, but come on. It's a fucking sci-fi fantasy game. Be a bit more original with it. They should have aimed for more of like a Destiny type system where a lot of the guns, sure, they feel similar, but they have like, you know, their own effects. Not going with more of the Division style of doing stuff where you have the same guns dropping, you know, every 5 seconds. Like the Division was understandable because they had to stick with a modern military shooter setting. So you couldn't really go super creative with that variety. But a game like Destiny, which is sci-fi, has a lot of gun variety that was a lot better. First Descendant easily could have gone with something more interesting in terms of gun variety. And I don't think the guns have a big enough difference between them for how they felt, other than like their magazine capacity or damage. Like none of the guns or gunplay is that interesting or impressive in First Descendant. It's just like bog standard gunplay. And the loot is just the same system that games like The Division and Destiny 2 use for rarity and stat boosts. Sure, there are unique weapons that you can craft like in Warframe, but I'm not there yet to try them out, so I don't know how much of a difference those make to gameplay. And the last thing I want to talk about is First Descendant's level and quest design, which is basically the same thing as Destiny 2. If you put both of their maps side by side and told me to choose which one from like a blind look, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Basically how First Descendant does it is the same as Destiny 2. Each sector is broken up into 3 or 4 different play areas that have 3 quests that you can do right away, with 1 or 2 maybe opening up after you finish them. And then the quests are kind of your normal stuff for looter shooters. Kill everything, defend this point, get the bomb and place it on the thing, etc. It's a lot of what we've seen in other looter shooters, like Destiny 2, The Division, and Anthem. It's not bad. Like, I don't think it's bad, but it's not impressive. It feels cookie cutter. It feels like they just took a checklist of, hey, this is in all the other big looter shooters. Let's do this stuff. Let's do the same thing as them. Like I said at the beginning of the video, the First Descendant feels like they made a checklist of what is a looter shooter game, and they made a game using that checklist. The game just feels generic. There's nothing I hate about the game, but there's nothing that I really like about the game that's going to keep me playing for very long. It's just, I think, a mediocre experience. Maybe the game's more fun when playing with people. I don't know. Nobody else wanted to play it with me. I think where I would place the First Descendant in my ranking system would maybe... I'm trying to find like the most middle ground category, and I think it'll be fun or interesting, but with some problems. Because it doesn't do anything bad. Like, the performance isn't bad. There isn't really, like, a big problem with the game, but I don't think there's anything special about the game compared to other looter shooters, like, you know, Warframe, Destiny 2, or The Division. And that's kind of just my thoughts on the First Descendant. It's mediocre. Like, it's not bad. It's not good. It's just right in that middle ground. And that's currently my thoughts on the First Descendant. If you have your own thoughts, let me know down in the comments. And let me know, if you are playing the game, how bad is the grind? Like, as you progress, how does it get worse? Or is it still kind of like just simple? But if you like the video, if you like what I had to say, please do all that algorithm stuff. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Like I said, leave a comment down below on what you think of the game. But most of all, I hope you have a royal day or a royal night.